participating today. My name is Kyle Krause, Assistant Deputy Director with the Department of Housing and Community Development, Division of Codes and Standards. Here with me presenting these items is Brandon Estes, Codes and Standards Administrator 1 with the State Housing Law Program. Thank you for the opportunity to present HCD's proposed changes to the 2019 California Building Code, Chapter 11A, Housing Accessibility. The proposal will help further align HCD building standards with national standards and guidelines. HCD's proposed changes to the CBC Chapter 11A were discussed at an HCD focus group meeting on October 3rd, 2019. The invitation to the focus group meeting was provided to all individuals who requested to be notified of such meetings via HCD's building standards email list. The CBC Chapter 11A proposals were also presented to the Building Standards Commission Accessibility Code Advisory Committee on February 11th and 12th of 2020. The invitation to the Accessibility Code Advisory Committee meeting was provided to all individuals who requested to be notified of such meetings via HCD's Building Standards email list, as well as the Building Standards Commission email list. The Accessibility Code Advisory Committee recommended approve as submitted for the proposed changes to Chapter 11A, with one exception, the definition of public housing, which HCD co-adopts with the Division of State Architect. The Code Advisory Committee recommended further study on this item, and HCD, DSA, and stakeholders worked together to further refine the proposed amendments to the definition of public housing, which is another item, and the amended definition received broad support. A 45-day public comment period was held from April 3rd to May 18th of 2020. HCD received public comments and analyzed each comment individually. Most of the comments were substantially similar. In response to comments received, HCD performed analysis and research of existing laws and regulations at both the state and federal levels. No changes were made to the final express terms as a result of public comments received. HCD has acknowledged and responded to all public comments received during the 45-day public comment period in the final statement of reasons. You may hear testimony in opposition today to HCD's proposal for the 36-inch transfer shower. But the fact is that DSA, with the 36-inch transfer shower for units with mobility features approved by this commission during the 2018 triennial code adoption cycle, and HCD's proposal before you today, are in alignment with all national standards and guidelines, and HCD has no valid argument why Chapter 11A should remain inconsistent with these other recognized standards. In conclusion, HCD respectfully requests approval and adoption of the final express terms. If you have specific questions, we're happy to provide further information. And now, Brandon Estes will provide an overview of the proposed changes for item 5.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. My name is Brandon Estes, Codes and Standards Administrator 1, representing the Department of Housing and Community Development State Housing Law Program. I will provide you with a brief description of HCD's item 02/19-5-1. HCD proposes to amend section 1134A.6 showers to include a 36-inch by 36-inch transfer shower as an additional design option in the California Building Code, Chapter 11A. HCD proposes this amendment to align with the California Building Code, Chapter 11B, whereby the transfer shower was codified during the 2018 triennial rulemaking cycle and is currently permitted in units with mobility features subject to Chapter 11B. In addition to aligning with the California Building Code Chapter 11B, HCD proposes the option of the transfer shower to align with available standards, including the 1984 Uniform Federal Accessibility Standards, the 1986 and later American National Standards Institute A117.1 standard, the 1991 Americans with Disabilities Act Accessibility Guidelines, the 1991 Fair Housing Act Design Guidelines, the 1996 Fair Housing Act Design Manual, and the 2010 Americans with Disabilities Act Standards for Accessible Design. HCD realizes that not everybody may prefer the transfer shower, but HCD is proposing this as an available option, not a mandate. The transfer shower may be preferable by persons with ambulatory disabilities who use mobility devices such as canes, walkers, crutches, knee scooters, gait trainers, safety rollers, and prosthetic limbs, as well as those who use a wheelchair who can stand up or otherwise transfer to a bench. According to the United States Access Board, the dimensions of the transfer shower are intentional and absolute. So, number one, the user may reach the grab bars and shower controls while seated. Number two, so that the back wall of the shower provides support while bathing. And number three, the shower controls may be reached from outside of the shower compartment. The Accessibility Code Advisory Committee recommended approve as submitted for this item. Commenters have expressed concern for this item, even though it's included in Chapter 11B and all other accessibility standards. With that, thank you.
Thank you for that overview of the proposal. This item will now be open for commissioner discussion. I will call on each commissioner. Commissioner Patel?
I have no comments at this time.
Thank you. Commissioner Klaus Bruckner?
I have no comment at this time.
Commissioner Mickelson?
I do have some questions and comments about this. First, some questions to staff. I wonder, well, I guess I should preface this by saying that as an architect and as a wheelchair rider myself, having done, many dozens of single-family custom showers for people with disabilities, I've heard a lot of comment and worked with people very closely on how to configure their showers. So I have a lot of opinions about this for myself, and it's different for everybody, as staff pointed out. But for myself, I feel like the option of a 36 by 36 shower where the controls and the shower head are in front of you rather than to the side, spraying out into a 30-inch wide space is better in a lot of ways for people who can transfer to a bench or a toilet. For the comment that staff had regarding alignment with 11B, I agree that whenever we can do that, it does make sense by default unless there are different types of uses between the two. And I think this is an instance where when you're living in a mobility unit full-time, you might have a shower chair that's used in the shower or an assistant who is there and helping every day. In transient lodging, which is what the focus of our discussion was last year for 11B, it's a very different situation. I know that people don't usually bring shower chairs with them when going to hotels and motels. There are some exceptions, but so I think that that aspect of the alignment discussion is not sort of absolute, I guess I'd say. FHA and the ADA do have it, and so I think that's an important point. And I think that there's validity to including it for California. But I was a little bit surprised that this went through what seemed like a very good vetting process by staff, going through both the focus group meeting and the CAC, not just going to the CAC. So I think that's good that happened. So my question with all of that is, to what degree did the voluminous comments that we have here come up, that was a reduction in access during either the focus group or the CAC discussions?
Thank you, Commissioner Mickelson. I can say that the voluminous comments claiming that this shower option will be the only option that's used by builders, I don't see that that's something that we could analyze and opine on. I think that first of all, the comparison to a detached single-family custom home is another case, because we're talking about covered multifamily dwelling units. So recognizing that there are a lot more options in a custom-built home than there are in many covered multifamily dwelling units. We believe that this is not only a viable option and may be preferable to some users. We did not hear any substantial and significant comments that had supporting information to justify the opinion that this shower option would be the only one selected by builders and developers when building covered multifamily dwelling units. Many of the concerns were, as you pointed out, Commissioner, were relative to personal preferences rather than what building industry will do when given this option. We don't believe that the building industry will suddenly exclude all other options and solely use this for a number of reasons. Customer preferences may warrant other designs, and we have no reason to believe that the comments that we received are in any way representative of reality, because we haven't tried this yet in California. But we do believe, on looking at all the comments and trying to understand the nature of the comment and be able to evaluate and determine whether or not this has a negative impact. I think in one way, time will tell. It is a regulation, and we're trying to align with other standards, including the Division of State Architect. So we can only say at this point in time, most of the information available to us and most of the comments point us in the direction that we believe that this is the best option going forward for alignment with those other standards and the Division of State Architect. This can always be revisited in the future if it's determined that there are problems and unintended consequences as a result. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say and again, I like the shower, so I'm not arguing against that personally. But I would say, just in response to that idea that we can't say whether this would be the sole shower used, my opinion, having done probably 1,000 units of affordable housing as well, more than that, is that most developers would, for at least in more urban areas, certainly would opt for the smaller footprint in order to be able to have a more efficient building. So I think that that aspect of the comments is probably not 100% true, maybe 2/3 or something. So what that led me to wonder is whether there were any discussions either with a focus group or the CAC in terms of providing this as a maximum percentage of showers, just as DSA has the matrix that we looked at last year that doesn't allow every shower to become this. If we're really trying to align, why don't we have percentages that acknowledge the what you just said, which is that people have different preferences?
Yeah, I think that's certainly something that could be done in future rulemaking. However, it wasn't part of the rulemaking before the commission today, and HCD did not enter into discussions with stakeholders regarding the concept of providing a ratio of a maximum number of 36-inch transfer showers.
And that didn't come up at all.
Not that I'm aware of. Brandon, do you have any information on that item?
I do not recall anything like that being in any of the public comments received.
Okay, I think that's all my questions at this moment. I may have more later. Thank you.
Commissioner Santillan?
I just have some follow-up questions to Commissioner Mickelton questions, and that is, I understand from your comments, Mr. Krause, that this exists in the code already, and curious, why didn't it come up in the triennial cycle for HCD?
Because HCD didn't engage with stakeholders during the 2018 triennial cycle to consider amendment of the shower size.
And so it already exists in, you said, another section in other agencies, right?
Yes, which in Chapter 11B, promulgated by the state architect for units with mobility features.
And so from a timing perspective, I know we're down to, and this has come up in other issues, if it was the pleasure of the commission to recommend further study, would there be enough time for public comment?
For the current rulemaking cycle, no. It would have to go to future rulemaking activity to be considered.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sasaki?
Good morning. So I have comments and questions about
Can you turn
this.
your volume up a little bit?
How's that?
Better. Thank you.
Good. So, I looked at the four different options under the proposed 1134A.6. And so those four options have different sizes of shower stalls. The amendment is for a 36 by 36 inch shower stall. So that is, when I took a look at these, I was just simply looking at square feet of shower stall. All right, and the amendment is essentially 3 by 3 or 9 square feet. When I look at the other three options, they are larger square footages. 1.1 is 42 inches by 48 inches, which is 14 square feet. The other two options, 1.2 and 1.4, which are 30 inches by 60 inches, are 12.5 square feet. So when I take a look at the different options, clearly the new amendment, the 36 by 36, is by far the smallest square footage. Now, if I think about construction costs are all driven by square feet. If I have to construct a building, the less square footage, the less cost. So I would think a substantial driver for a developer is to obviously create cost-effective buildings. And part of that would be if I, as a builder, can reduce square footage, I can reduce costs. So I would think that the amendment for a smaller square footage for an accessible shower would be a substantial driver to a builder to choose that option. So that's more of a comment. I think the other thing, and I don't know, but Commissioner Mickelton probably can comment on this, is say, for example, I'm a builder or a developer and I choose this new option, the transfer shower. Can a person who, well, is the transfer shower usable by people who can't get out of their wheelchair? And that's a question. And if that's the case, then I would say I have substantial concerns about this, because if it's not usable by people who can't get out of their wheelchair, then it's not usable for a set of disabled people, wheelchair bound people. The other, so there's a concern. Then I look back at earlier code versions, and what I see is the existing language, which is currently in the 2019 codes, goes all the way back, well, goes to the 2016 code set, 2013 code set, and 2010 code set. It's exactly the same language. It's not until 2007 do we have a single option, which is the 42 by 48 inch shower stall. In 2007, they don't have those other two options. Anyway, given all that, I can understand the concerns by the disability community that alignment aside from national standards, I can understand why they're concerned that this option is a reduction from the current existing standards. I also wonder if, in order to provide transfer shower requirements, whether or not transfer showers can simply be pulled out of this option list and instead put in a separate portion under the shower section that simply says transfer showers shall comply with X, because I know there's a number of new amendments relating to not only the size of transfer showers, but other requirements like grab bars and things like that. So maybe I don't have a whole lot of questions, but those are my comments.
This is Commissioner Mickelton. I'm going to interject here because Kent, you were asking about the transfer shower usability by people in wheelchairs. The reality is that when people have a shower wheelchair, they transfer into the shower wheelchair that then goes into the shower. So nobody uses their, as far as I've ever encountered in 30 years of doing this work, nobody uses their regular day-to-day wheelchair in the shower. So there's always a transfer involved. Sometimes it's assisted. So there may be somebody out in the larger space of the room helping somebody to make that transfer, or the person may be doing it themselves, and it may be easier in the space of the room rather than into a confined 36-inch space. But you know, the other showers that you mentioned that have seats are, you know, transfer showers of a sort, but they also allow that option of a chair. And a chair is sometimes parked in the shower 100% of the time, but you've probably seen them. They sometimes have arms and the chair. And so people use those arms to make the transfer, whereas the flip down seats that we have in California don't have that. We have grab bars instead. So it gets into a lot of nuances, but I just kind of wanted to address that reality of transfer or not. So I don't believe that this allowance of a transfer shower makes it impossible for a large segment of people because people are transferring regardless. So that's one thing. And then your comment as well about the square footages, that is exactly my concern. And so we're talking here not about DSA public housing, but HCD. And I know that as much as I love all of my my private developer clients, I know that they would opt for the square footage. I mean, they take 6 inches out of a stair tower, you know, to our chagrin. Every square foot counts, and when you have, you know, 10 square feet in a stack of 3 showers, or you know, or more multiplied by the number of units, it's a significant amount. So anyway, those are just my add-on comments to answer some of yours.
Thanks, Eric. That's all I have.
Commissioner Allegre?
I have no comment.
Commissioner Stockwell?
I have no comments at this time. Thank you.
Is there any further follow-up discussion?
I have a quick question. This is Commissioner Klaus Berkner. So we approved this for the DSA. And I get it that we have, in the conversation here, we have differences in use. Let's say somebody's living in an apartment, so they have transfer chairs for that type of use, yet in other types of housing, they might not have that availability. Having said that, what were, Commissioner Mickelton, since it's your area of expertise, do you remember what the conversations were when this came before us during the DSA code changes?
I haven't had a chance to look back at the commentary from that, but I was wondering that same thing. And in retrospect, I guess I'm a little surprised that there wasn't more discussion about this, frankly. When it came to us from DSA, I thought it was a good idea to provide that as an option for the reasons that I stated before, that the many people I've encountered working very carefully with individual disabilities of a great range have preferred a situation that's closer to, much closer to the 36 by 36 than the 30 by 60.
We do have DSA staff at this meeting today present. Sue Mo is attending, as well as Ida Claire. If you have any questions for DSA.
Actually, that's great, Kyle. I wonder, is it possible for us to, if DSA is available, to just get a little bit of background on the development process there and get a little more perspective on this?
I don't see Ida as being in here. So Sue Mo, did you want to make a comment on behalf of DSA?
Thank you, Undersecretary and Commissioners, Mrs. Susan Mo.
Sue, we're having a hard time hearing you. Can you?
Is that better?
A little bit.
Better?
You're hard to understand at the moment. Do you have
Another device.
another device next to?
Is that better?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, this is Susan Mo, Senior Architect and Certified Access Specialist with the Division of the State Architect. And when we looked at the transfer type shower, we did quite a bit of public outreach. We went to the Access Code Collaborative as well as input during public meetings. And when we went to the Code Advisory Committee, they recommended that we narrowed the scoping just a bit, which we did. So for the various types of roll-in showers in Chapter 11B, where roll-in showers would be required, are transient lodging guest rooms and undergraduate student housing at a place of education. But if you were to look at the requirements for what would be considered public housing, the units with mobility features, you would have the option of using a bathtub, either of the two roll-in type showers, the alternate or the standard, or the transfer type showers. And what we heard from more than one user of a mobility device was that actually the transfer type shower worked much better for them because they could leave their wheelchair outside of the wet area of the shower or whatever other mobility device they were using. They could transfer into that 36 by 36 inch shower. And actually one user said she had a problem with shower compartments that were larger than that, because when she tried to reach to the controls of the shower, then what would happen, she actually had an incident where she slipped off the shower seat. The other thing that we looked at with the transfer type shower, you can actually turn on the water before you get into the shower compartment. And that also aligns with the requirements in the plumbing code. So that's what we did when we took a look at the requirements for the transfer type showers. And then, as I said, we limited the scoping. So it's undergraduate student housing, transient lodging facilities where scoping is limited there. And then beyond that, say you have medical or correctional facilities, the transfer type showers wouldn't be allowed there. Or if you have common use toilet and bathing rooms, you wouldn't be allowed to use a transfer type shower there. So we didn't do it by percentage, but we limited the locations where you could use that type of shower. So if you have any other questions, if I can help, I'll be happy to do so.
Susan, I know you didn't have the percentages, but and you were breaking up a little bit, so I'm not sure I caught every word of that. But didn't we have a table where it's like up to one of the transfer type can be used when X number are required to?
yes, Commissioner Mickelton, there is a table, and that table can be found in the transient lodging scoping
You're
provision.
cutting out a lot. Can you?
Oh, is that better?
That's much better.
Okay, so that table is applicable to transient lodging guest rooms with mobility features. And then that table is also used for undergraduate student housing at a place of education. So that's where the table comes in, but that table does not apply to graduate student housing at a place of education. And it doesn't apply to public housing, the units with mobility features. So that's where the limitation comes in for the percentage of rooms that would be required to have a transfer type shower. And then actually the other locations, you could either use a bathtub or you could use a transfer type shower. Any other questions I can help with? Did that come across okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, any other follow-up discussion? All right, we will now begin taking public comments. If you wish to speak on this item, please put yourself in the queue now by pressing 1 and then 0. If you would like to identify yourself, please clearly state your name and who you represent. Barbara, can you check the phone for commenters?
You have 6 questions remaining.
Yes, this is Bob Raymer representing the California Building Industry Association and the California Apartment Association. We strongly support HCD's amendments to Chapter 11A, including the proposed item number 5 related to transfer type shower stalls. For the past 2 decades, industry has strongly supported changes to California's access codes that align us with the federal standards issued by DOJ and HUD. The proposal that HCD brings before you today mirrors the language issued by the Federal Department of Justice in September of 2010. And just as important, the HCD proposal for transfer type showers aligns us with the language already adopted and implemented by the Division of the State Architect for Public Housing. I have reviewed the written submittals in opposition to this proposal, and I must respectfully disagree with the assertion that builders will use only this design as the preferred method of compliance in the future. That is simply not the case. As HCD points out in the final statement of reasons, this design option, which is already allowed by DOJ and DSA, is a compliance option, with emphasis on the word option. Our designers do not design the apartment or condominium unit around a compartment shower. There are hundreds and hundreds of design considerations that go into the design of the multifamily dwelling unit, and the bathing facilities are simply one of many considerations. More importantly, as mentioned earlier, this design option is already allowed for a decade at the federal level, and I can assure you industry has not rushed into its exclusive use. That simply did not happen. Lastly, the legislature and the last 2 governors have repeatedly supported and urged alignment between the federal and state accessibility regulations for a host of reasons. HCD's proposal does just that. So once again, industry supports this HCD proposal, and if you have any other questions, I'll be on the line ready to relate to them. Thank you.
You have 10 questions remaining. Hello, this is Dara Scher from Senior Counsel at Disability Rights California. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners, for the opportunity to comment on this issue. I'm also a member of DSA's Access Collaborative. We strongly oppose this change, as noted in our written submission, because it reduces accessibility. And as I'll discuss a little further, and it is a lawful rejection of accessibility under Government Code Section 12955.1 C and E. C prohibits future amendments, and it was effective in 2001, prohibits amendments that diminish accessibility requirements of the existing codes, even if they comply with federal law. So that reason alone makes this unlawful. I urge each of you to look at the photos that Connie Arnold submitted with her May 18th, 2020 comments, or alternatively, draw a 36 by 36 inch square around your chair. You'll see that this size shower does not provide meaningful accessibility for a great number of people. It is difficult to transfer into this space, as Commissioner Mickelson noted. If you're used to using a shower chair with arms and other features that support you more fully, you can't get it into this space, and it's difficult to transfer. If you are a very large person, it's very difficult, even if you get into the space, to effectively maneuver and shower. And if you need an aid in the shower, it is impossible. Some users appropriately prefer a different type of shower, and we think it is important to consider options for people who prefer transfer showers. But preference is different than absolute exclusion, and this shower type, which I think, despite the comments of the building industry, is very likely to become the default in most instances, is not usable by a great number of folks. I urge you to consider what Commissioners Mickelson and Sasaki said about size and the cost of building. There are many options that we could add to showers that would make them work better, both for people who need a larger shower and for users who have more mobility and prefer a transfer type shower. If we look closely at items such as the door, the bench, where the hardware is, where the controls are, I think there was a lack of any comparison of other transfer showers that might have provided these options without excluding people with disabilities. And I urge you to reject this or send it back for further study. Those kinds of alternatives should be considered before using a very small shower that really does not work for a very large number of people. I also want to say that I think the comparisons to DSA's requirements are inappropriate here. In DSA's mobility units, and remember in Chapter 11B, you have to have at least 5% mobility units. These kind of showers are not permitted. They're not compliant with the ADA. So there are much larger and more effective shower options in DSA's public housing. As Ms. Moe noted, these small transfer showers were allowed primarily in certain types of housing, such as hotels, transient lodging, and some academic settings. And my recollection is that in many of those instances, those facilities also require a roll-in shower, but allow you to allow some number of showers to be transfer showers. In any event, they certainly don't apply to the mobility units in public housing. So to the extent these units exist under the Chapter 11B, they are not in housing, general housing, and we absolutely need more accessible in the private market housing stock, because there is nowhere near enough affordable housing for people with disabilities, and many of them live in the private market. This is definitely a reduction in access from options that have existed for many, many years in California. It was not adequately studied. It does reduce and diminish existing accessibility despite the requirement that such reductions not occur. And we urge you to, at a minimum, send it back for further study, but at most, we really would like you to do is just reject it outright. This is not a reasonable option. There are many other options available with appropriate study that can be designed to serve more users without cutting off access for some. Thank you very much for considering our comments. You have 9 questions remaining.
Hello, my name is Tim Timish. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, you're there.
Hello?
We can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I'm Tim Timish. I'm a civil rights attorney. I've been practicing for 30 years, almost exclusively in the area of disabled rights. I'm a member of CODAP. You're familiar with that. That's a large organization of professionals, and we typically interface with a much larger group of the community. One of the past submissions, we had 152 signatures, not this, but something else. So we do try to express a voice for a wide number of individuals. I'm here to address not only the transfer shower, but also the public housing definition. I don't want to repeat myself when we get to 11B.
Mr. Timish, Mr. Timish, I'll ask you to confine your comments to the public shower issue. We will be taking up the public housing definition under another item. And for the purpose of time and getting through this item, I'd ask you to confine your comments. Thank you.
Good, that's exactly what I would suggest, that maybe that would be passed over and handled separately, particularly under 11B. I think that's really DSA's jurisdiction. It's more appropriate to hear that proposal from them rather than, anyway, and all that, let's talk about the shower. The transfer shower, I did write public comments on this. I have a letter dated May 18th. I'm sure DSA can provide it to you. It's a 6 or 7 page letter. I'm going to be going through the headings on that. I would echo Mr. Sasaki's comments and Mrs. Scher's about usability. I think that they adequately covered it. I do have a few other comments, but mostly I want to go through how ACD originally submitted this as it granting better access to controls and later changed it to other motives. So I think it's arbitrary and capricious in that sense. And that was particularly after we showed that the transfer provides less access to controls. It requires a greater reach. I'm going to go through how this does not cause alignment of the codes, how 11A and 11B will now be different. That's something that was being discussed earlier with Mr. Mickelton. I last want to address why it should be rejected because of the lack of empirical evidence and because it has not provided enough detail as to what's going to be required for a transfer shower. Something that's covered much more significantly in 11B, but which is not adopted and dragged over to 11A. Instead, they try to work out their own unartful language. In the end, I'm going to ask, after going through these, that this proposal be rejected and sent back so that it can be done correctly and with the input from the community at the front instead of at the back. Going back to my first point, which is that the transfer shower is less accessible. And both the standard and alternate controls are placed on the wall immediately to the side of the seat. You do not reach across the space to access your control. That's really important because, and I hear this from users, is some of them don't have 2 hands or capability in 2 hands, and they can't be dedicating a hand to balance. That leads towards bathing with 1 hand. And so that's why the building standards rather thoughtfully put the controls on the side wall. Your body is balanced, you don't have to hold on to the grab bar, you just reach the controls on the side wall. In contrast, the transfer shower requires reaching across the space. Now you're engaging balance
Now you're washing with one hand and also trying to juggle holding the shower wand. It's just not an ideal design. Echoing Mr. Mickelton's comments about how probably 2/3 of the builders are going to take this cheaper design. That makes a lot of sense. It's a reduced square footage, and the code is designed, or the building standards designs the code to grant certainty that things will be billed in specific percentages to accomplish access for a wide number of user groups. You do that through scoping. Here, unlike 11B, transfer showers are not scoped separately. They're classified as among showers. When we suggested that they should change scoping, like they did in 11B, to ensure that you'd get both transfers and or tubs with roll-ins, they said, no, we're just going to leave it as is. And I urge you to look at their comments where they respond to this criticism. They just said, we disagree. They just kind of fluff it off, and we don't think builders will react that way. Well, again, your code is designed to scope. Now, in 11B, when we changed 11B, there was massive pushback against transfer showers. The balance that was struck was that transfer showers could replace tubs, but only tubs. Roll-ins were scoped separately, so you were assured that you still got roll-ins. So enough said. Water rises to the level of least resistance. The same will be said for expense. The commission is not going to accomplish scoping unless the classification of transfer showers, as in 11B, is changed to replace tubs, scoped with tubs instead of with showers. The other thing I wanted to address was, I've addressed controls. There was no empirical evidence put forth as to how this is more accessible. We just got kind of glib comments that they've heard from disability users and they're more accessible. But again, persons with crutches can also use tubs, and that is not always true for wheelchair users. So it's just essential that we have the California option. It's more thoughtful, it provides greater access, and this will eliminate that. And the last thing I make, the last comment I make in my letter, if you can dig that up, is that there's no, Chapter 11A doesn't provide a diagram for their transfer. It doesn't provide useful guidance as to how this is to be configured. It doesn't adopt 11B. It doesn't adopt anything from ADAG. It tries to work out its own definition. And you see that enough time wasn't put into it, because it says things like controls shall be installed on a sidewall opposite future seat location. The future seat, nobody knows what that means. They simply say that it's going to be 36 by 36. Doesn't prescribe what's the sidewall or the bench wall. You don't have enough there to tell you how to design it. I guess they thought people would go out and grab the definitions of a transfer from some other part of the code. But again, the code is about certainty and not hoping that people will do the right thing. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
You have 8 questions remaining. Hello? Hello? Hello?
You're on, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lori Jones. I'm not formally representing anyone. I'm a senior citizen, not mobility limited myself. And I'm a student at American River College, and I worked in building inspection for about 15 years. And the classes I've had in accessibility codes had a wheelchair turnaround radius of 60 inches. And so I see how this one can accomplish that. I've never heard of a developer opting to do a larger bathroom that is not equal. And they said they had heard me down and I was federal, and I would posit that under the current unmentionable national administration, I certainly wouldn't trust any standards that they developed to be not profit driven and just for the benefit of the disabled community. So I would urge that you not accept this change, and at the very least put it in as a ratio so that some other size would be required at some point. And that's it. Thank you.
You have 7 questions remaining.
Hi, my name is Erin Watkins. I am the community organizer with Community Resources for Independent Living located here in Hayward. I represent nearly 2,000 individuals with disabilities who exist on the low to extremely low income group. I have heard many arguments against and for this, and I would like to say that the representative of DRC has said almost everything I was going to say, fact by fact, the same facts. And I would just like to add that we have about 2,000 individuals that I've spoken to directly over the past 6 months regarding these types of issues that have said that any shower that is not either a bathtub or a roll-in shower are not accessible to them as they're extremely low income and only have one type of chair that they can use. So I would just like you guys to send us back for further comments, for further research, and I would like to have the opportunity to bring the disability community to the forefront of this discussion and have their opinions, their thoughts, and their wishes followed, rather than having it led by a building commission or commercial builders. Thanks so much.
You have 6 questions remaining.
Before we get to the next, I apologize. This is Commissioner Klaas-Bruckner. Before we get to the next caller, is there a way to be able to hear better the commenters? I can hear them, but it's a lot. It takes a lot of strain. If people on the phone can pick up the phone rather than be on speaker in any way, I would greatly appreciate it. We can all hear that way, everybody better.
And to follow up on that, if the callers can use a headset, that's always better quality than using the phone itself. Thank you.
This is Holly-Ann. Am I on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Can you speak a little louder?
Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak. Is this loud enough?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is such an important issue, and I would really like to support the comments of those who are concerned about the issue that the transfer shower does not accommodate everyone. As the representative from HCD said, it's for those who could stand. Well, obviously, that leaves out a lot of people who cannot stand. So there is no reason not to come up with a design that's usable by everyone. That you would even go as an option to a design that from the very beginning is obvious to you and to everyone making this decision that only people who can stand would be able to bathe in their home. That's very troubling that we would arrive at this conclusion that that would be acceptable when, of course, with today's technology, with our understanding of the human constructs, we can come up with a shower design that accommodates everyone. And I understand Mr. Mickenden has a great deal of expertise, but he is not the only one with expertise and experience. For example, I've known people that use a roll-in shower, they're independent, they use a power chair, and they roll into their roll-in shower compartment and throw a plastic covering over their wheelchair after they transfer to the shower seat. So it's just not true that the roll-in shower is limiting. And we're all talking about our own personal experience, and that is something that is wrong with the whole process. I understand that this was approved at DSA's level because of the input of two people who use wheelchairs on their collaborative, speaking from their own personal experience, that they could use a transfer shower. That is not how code should be developed. It should be developed with thorough, steady input from as many as possible. And so what we've got is a bit of a broken system here. We're not getting enough input before we come to these conclusions that are obviously damaging to a lot of people who cannot stand. I would really like to emphasize what Ms. Scher said about what we need to design, not for preference, and certainly not for exclusion. We don't get to exclude people because some people prefer another design.
Hey, Pauline,
Tim said.
I apologize for interrupting. Your voice got quieter again. If you could raise your voice a little bit and also speak a little slower for the captioner, please.
Yes, I thank you for reminding me of that. I really appreciate it, and I will slow down. I'd like to restate what I just said about how cleverly Ms. Scher expressed it, that we can't design for preference, but we need to design for inclusion. And we also need to design with obvious incentive to do the right thing. Now, there will be some builders who may consider that a rolling shower would be better for most people, or at least for those who cannot stand. But there's no clarity about that choice in the code, in the proposed code. The only choice it seems to be offering is to build a cheaper shower because it's fewer square feet. That's the choice that's being offered. It's not offering a choice that, okay, you can build a shower for people that can stand, or you can build a shower for people who cannot stand. That's not stated in the code. That's not the option offered, but that is in reality what is being offered to builders, and that's that they can save money. But the reality is the amount they can save is negligible at such great expense and such harm to people with disabilities who cannot stand. So I did the math. It's the difference between the smallest roll-in shower and the 36 by 36 shower is 5 square feet. Now you cannot count in that 5 square feet the fees and permit cost and the electrical and the plumbing and all the other goes around with it for the general square footage, because this is only additional square footage. So you're looking at a very negligible amount of money that these builders would be saving, or they're glad to save money, but they don't know at what cost they would be saving money. And it's such a peddling amount that I'm sure if they were fully informed that the housing they're building will not allow people who cannot stand to take a shower or to bathe, I think many of them would choose to go ahead and spend that negligible amount. But you're not giving them that opportunity with this code change to make an informed decision. What we need is something we don't really have, and that is an opportunity for people with disabilities to provide input at the very beginning of the process, when staff
changes, mostly in response to pressure from highly paid lobbyists. And you have to remember, people with disabilities do not show a lobbying presence there in Sacramento. We don't have anybody who's well paid to represent our interests. It's only us volunteers who spend hours and hours of our time because we care about the whole community. I'm not going to talk about my shower experience. That doesn't relate to anything. I mean, if I'm in a study group and I need to tell you how it works for me, okay, but not here in this arena. I'm not going to tell you that a shower is okay for me, one way or another, transfer or roll in. That's irrelevant. What we need to do is find out from the whole community, as many representatives as possible, with mock-ups and trying it out and meetings in different parts of the state, and to get input from it about what is the best shower design that accommodates everyone. That we have an option here to not allow people who cannot stand to take a bath in their own home is just really obscene, and it portrays the process, which is not adequate in any way, shape, or form. We have a process whereby people, and a few people on that committee, maybe somewhere, get to decide that people who can't stand won't be able to bathe in their home. That's obviously wrong. And the obvious answer is that we go back and do it right, get input from everyone, come up with a design that can accommodate everyone. And that is possible, and we all know it is possible. And what's really ironic, as Tim pointed out, the very first time HCD came out with this proposal, they said it was because one person said they couldn't reach the controls in the roll-in showers. But if you look at the diagrams of the 36 by 36, as Tim explained, the controls are even further away than they are in the roll-in showers. So HCD stopped using that argument. They just dropped it because it was obviously an inadequate and misleading explanation for their code change. So the whole process is suspect. It's suspect because you ended up with a code change that excludes people who can't stand, and you provide it as an option. And the builders don't even understand that these options that they have a choice to choose from exclude people who cannot stand. They don't know that. It's not set in the code. They just know they want to build as much house for as little money as possible. And you don't even explain to them how the negligible amount they would be saving actually damages, abuses people with disabilities. So I'm asking the commission to ask the HCD put together an advisory body composed of representatives of all various types of disabilities, hearing impaired, visually impaired, cognitively impaired, mobility impaired, and other disabilities, so that we have the full representation of the disability community being involved as they develop standards that impact the lives of people with disabilities. That's number one. That's the number one job of HCD, is get impact statements from those who have to live with their code changes. It's just unconscionable that we've arrived this far and not been heard. And we provided a lot of comments during the 45-day comment period, and they were just ignored. So what does that tell you? It tells you that HCD has been so heavily lobbied by the building industry that they only can hear the building industry side of it, who want a cheaper shower option. Because if they want to be so heavily to the building industry, California Building Owners and Managers Association, California Building Industry Association, California Housing, et cetera, if they weren't listening so well to those people, why would they ever have come up with an option, which by their own words today say that only people who can stand can use it? So you see, commissioners, you need to not only disapprove this item or send it back to further study, you need to direct HCD to come up with an equitable process that involves people with disabilities and the development of access standards. Thank you very much for your time.
You have 5 questions remaining.
Hello, my name is Eugene Lozano. I'm representing the California Council of the Blind. As a side note, I am a member of the DSA Access Code Collaborative and also the Building Standards Commission's Access Advisory Committee, which I'm not representing either one of them, but my position while serving on this item, but also when it was brought up under DSA in the last code cycle, that I could not support it. I minimally supported it being sent back for further study, and I still feel that this should be done. As I don't want to repeat what has been said, particularly from the representative from Disability Rights California, but I feel that it needs further study and a real entity, a body that is convened, a task force that is focused on actual scientific research, that we get objective information on the feasibility of a 36 by inch shower stall. I recognize that there are federal regulations that have asked for this or do have this, but this has been an item, this stall design has for decades been opposed by members of the disability community for a variety of reasons, which have been brought up by previous speakers. We need, rather than just anecdotal reports from either side, we need to have some current research, especially in light of how the population of disabilities is changed as a result of modern medical breakthroughs, greater survival rates, particularly from those who have acquired their injuries through active duty in the military, which has changed a lot of the profile of disabled users who need these showers that are accessible from past times. During the comment periods, we did hear those who preferred to use the 36 by 36 inch showers, when asked, when it came to usability, whether they could use in the roll showers, they said they could. Where on the other hand, those who needed to use the roll shower could not find any way of explaining how they could use a smaller shower, particularly if they were a quadriplegic and needed somebody, a personal care attendant, to be physically right there helping them with the showering process, where there was totally inadequate space for 2 individuals to occupy the space. We really need to have regulations fully studied, based on scientific research. So I really feel a body should be, a task force should be established. And with HCD and DSA being, of course, being the lead entities in this, and bringing in researchers to do really steady, and members of the disability community, and even those who are seniors with functional limitations, and those individuals who are, quote, small people. Thank you for your consideration for minimally sending this back for further study, or preferably in opposition. Thank you.
You have 4 questions remaining.
Hi, my name is Gracia Figueroa, and I'm with Cali down in LA, Communities Actively Living Independent Free.
Ma'am, can you slow down a little bit for the capture? Can you talk a little slower, please?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi. Okay. My name is Gracia Figueroa, or maybe I should spell that. ENGRACIA FIGUEROA. And I'm with Cali Communities Actively Living Independent and Free. And we're from downtown LA. And I actually was a client a long time ago of, I think it was Cleo and Hayward, back when I lived in San Leandro. And so I've been on the other end, and now I'm on the board of directors of Cali, but I implore you, as the human and the quadriplegic that he just spoke of, and the person that would love to take a shower in her apartment, but 36 by 30 would just be too small, because I need help, but I'm a very independent person, and if there was a greater space or a way to create a design for me, I know a little person who would love to have a better space. There needs to be a human idea, a task force. Please put Cal Life involved in that as well. I want to keep it slow for the captioner.
Thank you.
But please bring it back to, do not pass this, bring it back. Create a task force, a research team, involve the whole state. You know, there are enough ILCs and everything there. No, please bring it back. It is not going to work like that. It can't. 36 by 36 is a box, and that's just not going to fit. And there needs to be certain things for other disabilities. They need to be considerate of that. Different areas of buildings code, it needs to be completely changed all the way around, because that is the old archaic idea. I have a tub that I can't get in right now with a beautiful new chair in there, everything else, but it's still inaccessible of the way to turn in there, because I understand square footage means dollars. It doesn't mean, you know, just the feat of helping me have an extra person in there to fit personally and easy. So, and another person, it's a different idea. So, and it's a different world, because anybody can get stricken with anything COVID right now and be incapacitated and need the help to get somewhere. So you could be walking one moment and not the next. So keep that in mind, because the world is changing before your eyes as well as it is mine. So I already need that accessibility. So if you keep in mind the idea of universal design and bring it back with the whole research team and get all these different IOCs and groups involved, and people from various disabilities will be able to create something within the right price fair for you guys as well, but something that's livable. And that's all I need to say.
Thank you. Before we move on to the next
person. And I look forward to hearing from all these different folks. Let's contact each other.
Thank you for your comments. Before we move on to the next commenter, we were hoping to take a break every 90 minutes, and I know we've got about 3 people left on the phone. We take that break so our closed captioner can get a break from all of this typing. So I'd like to ask the next 3 people on the phone to please, give your comments, but don't repeat anything that may have already been said. Keep them as concise as possible so that we can squeeze a break in here for the captioner. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Thank you, guys.
You have 3 questions remaining.
Hi, my name is Jack Carnesi. I would actually appreciate a break in the interest of helping the closed captioner. Could we take a couple minutes so they could, their fingers don't hurt so much?
I think what we're going to do is finish up the commenters on the phone, take a break, and then when we come back, we'll be able to go back to the commissioners. So why don't we go ahead and finish up the commenters, and then we'll take our break. Thank you, sir.
Okay. The staff here has not mentioned again that if anyone is listening to this call and wants to participate, please press 1 and 0 to be included. Was not made super clear. This process has been very difficult to be a part of, and the codes, learning about this has been very complicated. It's almost like you have to be a lawyer to even understand what's going on with all of this. The website doesn't even say disability, it says Title 24 and goes into a bunch of legal jargon. And the only reason I'm here today is because of the extremely, really hardworking efforts of people with disabilities and seniors who are severely disabled, trying to let the public know these meetings are happening and that changes are being made to affect our lives. My name is Zach Carnesi. I'm a disability advocate and community organizer and wheelchair user based in San Francisco. I publish publicly videos. I'm a journalist and I publish videos on YouTube around disability access and things of this nature. So I'm very interested in what's happening here today, and you can find my videos on YouTube by searching San Francisco disability rights, ADA, those kind of keywords. I'm very concerned that during the month of July 2020, this is the 30th anniversary of the American with Disabilities Act. It should be a time of celebration for our community, through the civil rights that we have fought so hard for and the access that we have fought so hard for. It's heartbreaking to see that access being rolled back, being removed, and our human right to shower and to bathe ourselves is being challenged by the legislature. Many people have spoken up and made many good points. As Eric Mickelton said, every square foot counts and footage is money. And any disabled person will tell you that businesses, restaurants, housing, the construction companies and owners routinely do the bare minimum because disability access costs money. And unfortunately, not everyone has the biggest heart to care about our needs. And I'm hoping that you all here today can listen to your heart and care about our needs and our access. The things that Krause said were really hard to hear, saying things like, this may be preferable to those with a wheelchair who can stand up. How many people who use a wheelchair can stand up and take a shower? I mean, it's a strange thing to say about a building code like this. He also said today that he did not hear substantial and significant comments from the disabled community, which I think is a really unfair thing. He also said that we have no reason to believe the comments received are any representation of reality. I mean, these were actually said by HCD here today. Disabled people have gone to great lengths to provide extremely detailed documents and pictures, especially Connie Hartland, who was recommended earlier to look at her documents and her pictures. We've gone to great lengths to document in high detail of the challenges that this would pose to us. And to say that that has no representation in reality, it's a really hurtful thing to hear. I want to thank Kent Sasaki and Ms. Scher for really listening to the disabled community and what our needs are here and how these are not being listened to by some people and or taken into account or given the weight that it deserves. I'm hoping that people here can do the right thing. And I want to say that, you know, want to respond to one of the comments by Krause and some others maybe that, you know, the bare minimum on the national level is this code. Well, one of the things that makes California a great state is that it has been a leader on the national scale. And we've seen that with COVID, when the national government said, don't take this thing that seriously, kind of like the flu, not a big deal. California stepped up. Governor Newsom stepped up and he said, that's not true. We need to close things down. We need to take this thing seriously. And California was in news headlines all over the world as a great leader. And it makes me proud to be in California as a state that leads the charge on human rights. And to reduce California to a follower status of the national bare minimum is an insult to this great state. It's a total insult to California. California has led the charge on so many issues, especially on civil rights.
Mr. Cardenas, excuse me.
Yes.
Do you have a comment specific to the 36 by 36 shower? We appreciate you concurring with the other speakers.
Yes, this is all part of my comment. I use a wheelchair. I'm a disability advocate and community organizer. I speak with people with disabilities regularly in my community, and no one has said that this would be beneficial for them. I would not be able to use a shower were it made in this way. And I need to bathe just like everyone else. The buildings that are made are not specifically always made to a specific person, right? Buildings can outlive people. They can be sold or rented. So if a building is made to the bare minimum, which it will very likely be if this passes, because that saves some money. I wouldn't say it's a lot of money, but it would save some dollars, you know, in the pockets of construction people. And unfortunately, not everyone cares about our access more than those dollars. But if that were to happen, then I wouldn't be able to bathe, right? I could go to a hotel and not even be able to bathe. I mean, bathing is a human right. The right to access safe sanitation is a human right. And especially more important in this climate of a virus that is highly contagious and affecting the world on a pandemic scale. Having our access to showers doesn't just help us, it helps everyone. Because sanitation has never been more important than it is right now during the COVID pandemic. I want to thank you all for listening to my comments, and I want to again thank Kent Sasaki and Ms. Scher and the others that have spoken up today in respect and help of the disabled community. Again, my name is Zach Karnazes, Karnazes, and I look forward to hearing from fellow disabled people that care about the showers issues that's brought up here today. And again, if anyone on the call wants to speak, please press 1 and 0 so you can be in the queue. Thank you.
You have 2 questions remaining.
Good morning. My name is Richard Scaff. I'm the Executive Director of designing a 501c3 nonprofit organization, Designing Accessible Communities. I am also a member of your Access Advisory Committee. Interestingly enough, after 40 years of applying, for some reason I was a year and a half ago made a member. The problem we have is that at the advisory committee meeting where this shower was discussed, I had a family issue and was not able to physically be at the site. My wife was going through chemo for lymphoma, and I was unable to be at the meeting site to be able to not only comment, but actually vote. If I had been at the meeting physically, I would have opposed the 36 by 36 inch proposal for a shower by H&CD. I opposed it when DSA brought it before the Building Standards Commission, along with a group of representatives of people with disabilities and vulnerable seniors in the state of California. You know, I think the first thing I want to say is you are sitting on a commission as commissioners. And by the way, I want to thank Kent Sasaki and Eric for both of their comments as professionals in the industry. They spoke very clearly and eloquently about the issues that we are facing with it. We are in the last, I'd say, 7 to 8 years during Mr. Whittam's reign as state architect and with the existing staff from HCD, what we have seen coming to your commission are threats to the rights of people with disabilities and their ability to access and function in the built environment. I spent 15 years, I created 3 positions with the city of San Francisco, 15 years with the city as a chief building inspector, ADA coordinator for public works, and the deputy director of the mayor's office on disability. In those 15 years, I also sat as a member of 3 advisory committees built to the U.S. Access Board, and was on up until Whittam as the state architect. I was on every single state architect's advisory committees. I was on the HCD's advisory committees. What in the last 8 years or so has happened is the very clear change in direction of the 5 code writing agencies bringing proposed code language changes to the Building Standards Commission. And the change has been that the mandate each of those 5 code writing agencies has, and the California Building Standards Commission has, is to create building code that will protect people with disabilities and ensure that they have access to the building environment.
Mr. Scaff, I hate to interrupt you.
What we have seen is a substantial reduction.
Richard,
please. Mr. Scaff, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Please remember that the closed captioner is trying to capture everything that you're saying. So we want to not only speak a little bit more slowly, but I'd also ask you to limit your comments to the 36 by 36 shower issue. We're trying to push through a break, and we have 1 commenter left after you. So if you could be concise with your comments, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. I will try to do that. And by the way, that was something else I was going to speak to. I am watching on screen the procedure at the Building Standards Commission site, as well as all the off-site locations where the commissioners are located. What is happening is there is no sign language, and the captioner is not captioning for whatever reason. And this is not said to attack the captioner, but the captioning is not working adequately and is not visible with the language with the statements being made all the time. So you don't have a truly accessible event happening today. As far as the 36 by 36 inch shower, I will not go into the details that were brought before. I will only say that a 36 by 36 inch shower is removing access from people with disabilities. And in fact, it is a proposed code change that was brought forward by industry because it reduces square footage. That can be both a cost savings if they decide to use the 36 by 36 inch shower. It will also provide more space for other areas within a unit. It specifically will exclude a substantial number of people with disabilities in the state of California. And the two advisory committees, both State Architect and HNCD, had come to their conclusions based on anecdotal information. They have not based the designs on analyzing the users of showers that have disabilities and the broad brush number of types of disabling conditions people have that would not allow them to use a 36 by 36 inch shower. I want to support what Ms. Schur said, what Ms. Doyle said, Mr. Timmich said. I also want to support the fact that it will not allow for the use of an attendant. There is not adequate space. Doing a side transfer into that space is only for those of us that have a great amount of upper body strength and balance. So I would ask that this item be sent back for further study. I would prefer that it would be voted opposed, but most importantly, I would ask this commission and you, Madam Chairman, that the commission direct the 5 code writing agencies to not create code that is going to reduce physical access for people with disabilities in a built environment. And that's what's happening today. Thank you.
You have one question remaining. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Great, thank you. Thank you. My name is Susan, and my statements are very brief. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I live here in Sonoma County, and I just want to say that being disabled, I could not utilize the shower. I am a very petite woman in a very petite wheelchair, a child's wheelchair, and this would not be possible. I'd like to also comment that any of my immediate friends and friends in my larger community that are disabled also could not utilize this wheelchair. And most importantly, I'd like to point out as a disabled person, I also don't know anyone that utilized the transfer chair that brings them into their shower. There simply isn't space in our homes to store them or to utilize them in this way. And most importantly, those of us who struggle with pressure sores avoid additional transfers for fear of harming ourselves. So most people transfer directly, which is a very important thing to note. And most importantly, I do thank you for reconsidering this and utilizing people who are disabled with a range of disabilities, particularly those that cannot stand, as part of your task force to make the distinction between what is ideal in an intellectual response to what is real and what can be utilized. I really thank you for reconsidering this. This would be so significant, and at a time when we are having to consider all lives and all inclusion, anything that does not include everyone is discriminatory. And I really, really hope that you all think about this. Thank you again for your time and consideration of this matter today and taking our comments. It is greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. You have 0 questions remaining.
All right, thank you all for your comments. They were greatly appreciated. Thank you for your patience of waiting on the phone in order to be able to make your comments. We are going to go ahead and take a 10-minute break right now. It's 10:49. We will come back at 11 o'clock. And that is it. Thank you. Hey, Sue, Mo? You're on mute.
Okay, how's that?
Hey, we're not back on the meeting yet, but Sue, I don't know if there's a way we can work on your audio a little bit, because I know you're going to be providing public testimony or the overview of the public housing definition.
Okay, is this better?
No, see, I'm not sure what's happening, Sue, but we can't hear you very well at all. Is it possible for you just to call in and give your public, well, no, because then we have to queue you in. She can't call in.
She can call into the Zoom. The Zoom has a call-in option. There's a phone number for Zoom.
Let me.
Susan, do you have a headset or a, no? Yeah, because your audio is breaking up. It's like your computer mic is detecting other background noise and cutting it out to do noise canceling. That's the sound that we're getting.
I've got my cell phone close by. I wonder if I'd move my cell phone.
Well, are you on your cell phone and?
No.
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 So is there, hang on a second here. Let me work with Barbara.
Yeah.
Barbara,
Okay.
is there a way for Sumo to call in on the Zoom line so she could just provide her overview on the phone?
I did not set up a phone line with this.
But when you do a Zoom invite, it automatically gives you, it should.
Yeah. Well, you have options to eliminate that, and I did.
Oh, got it.
Because on the YouTube platform, you can't.
And we're unmuted, so.
Yeah. On the YouTube platform, you can't see anybody that doesn't have.
Give us a couple minutes to sort this out, and we're going to mute ourselves for a minute. But Sue, please stand by, and we'll see what we can figure out, okay?
Sue, can you hear me? This is Kyle.
Yes, I can. Perfect.
Maybe try turning your video off and then speaking closely to the microphone on the computer.
Okay, how's that?
Try it one more time.
No.
No, it's still the same.
Let me try one other thing.
Hey, Sue.
Yeah.
The other option our staff has suggested is that you use the Zoom app on your phone and talk into the phone as opposed on your cell phone as opposed to trying it through the computer. That might work better.
Okay, I'll give that a try.
Okay, we'll stand by, test real quick, okay?
Okay.
Sue, that's what I'm doing, and it works really well, especially if you put the headset on the phone.
Okay, let's see.
can't hear you, Sue.
Oh.
Now we can. Try again.
Okay, does that work?
No, it's gonna cut out.
Okay, so hey, Ada, can you text me the link that you use on your phone?
It's the same link that you use to get into the meeting.
Oh, okay, I can do that. Just a second then.
Yeah, just through your phone maybe.
Okay, I can do that.
She must not have been a part of that early set.
She was.
Different system maybe.
Well, she's in that little cubby space. Her room is not very big where she's at. I'm just wondering, but I think it's mainly her computer, maybe an older computer. That's what I'm thinking.
Hey, Sue, is it gonna work? Because we want to start. Go ahead, sorry.
I just sent myself a link, so I should be getting it in a second and log in as soon as I email that myself. So yeah, as soon as I get the link, I'll log in with my phone and give that a try.
Okay, because we're gonna resume the meeting, but knowing that we're gonna be coming back to HCD's package, and you're gonna be assisting with the public housing definition. So we just wanted to make sure you were getting close to ready. Okay. All right. Let me turn our video back on.
And
All right.
I unmuted that.
Okay. All right. We're back up. All right. We're going to resume our meeting now. We're going to turn to BSC staff and see if there were any written comments submitted prior to the meeting regarding item 5.
Thank you. This is Mike with Building Standards Commission. We did receive about 20 comments with similar tone or similar note related to 1134A.6 transfer showers. And briefly, the commenters, we summarized their comments in the following. If building industry is given an option to choose, they will choose the cheaper, smaller option. This 36-inch by 36-inch shower size discriminates against people with disabilities, especially with grab bar and seating installation. The logistics involved using wheelchair mobility aids, body size, chair size, transfer, and shower assistance is not accommodating. Many commenters suggest people with disabilities should be part of the development of the code. Create a work group of people who are disabled. That's the end of the comment.
Thank you. That concludes the public comment portion. Prior to turning it back over to the commissioners, we have gotten a request from Housing and Community Development, so I'm going to ask Kyle Krause to speak to the commissioners again.
Good morning, Madam Undersecretary and Commissioners. First, I'd like to really thank the Commission for the discussion on this item and some of the public commenters on the telephone that provided what I think is additional information. So whereas HCD, really designs or desires to align with national standards and guidelines and have one set of building standards that are applicable to dwelling units, there has been additional information based on the discussion between the commissioners and the public testimony. And I think at this point, HCD may have gotten this wrong. And HCD would like to requestfully request to withdraw this item at this hearing, at this time, and look at this issue more carefully in future rulemaking activity. HCD does not want to reduce access. We deeply care about the accessibility needs of everybody. And building industry didn't ask us to do this on their behalf. Let me make that very clear. This is something where we were simply trying to propose building standards to align where possible and provide the same set of rules to builders and code users. But clearly, this issue is not resolved. So HCD requests withdraw.
Thank you. The commission will withdraw this one. This does not require any action on the part of the commissioners, so we will move on to our next item.
Before we move on, I want to, this is Commissioner Sasaki. I want to thank HCD and Kyle. I think this is really a really important issue, one that should be thought about closely because it can affect a lot of people. I have a cousin who's been a paraplegic for more than 20 years. I see her infrequently at Christmas time and Thanksgiving. She has, I help her with her chair. Her chair is very large. And, it didn't hit me until listening to some of these folks that, my goodness, Kent, you have a personal connection with this. I doubt my cousin, Annie, could use the 36 by 36 inch shower. And I don't think if she knew about this, she would be happy about it. Whether I could, honestly say, oh yes, we were doing things, for the good of the public. So I guess it hit me very personally. And so I thank you guys for withdrawing it and further considering it, further studying it, because I think that's the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, that's why we're all here. We want to do the right thing, right? So thank you.
If I could, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ellie.
This is Commissioner Klaus Bruckner. The more I think about this issue, the bigger it seems. And I think the scope in this case is really, really broad. I mean, I was trying to visualize what a 3 foot by 3 foot shower looks like. And this sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11, one length of this is about 1 foot. So the shower is effectively 3 times the size of this sheet. And I also went and measured myself from, if I was holding my arms this way, from elbow to elbow. And I'm only a 5'3" person. And I'm not disabled. And that's about 3 feet. I cannot imagine anyone in a wheelchair being able to use that shower. And I looked up the rate of obesity in Americans. In adult Americans, it's about 40%. And that those showers would probably make it difficult for people with obesity to even use the shower. So I thank Kyle for withdrawing this, and I appreciate the spirit with which HCD did this. And but I think this needs further study, and the scope is way too broad. There should be, as Commissioner Mickelton said, there should be limitations on the number of showers or percentages that where it in an apartment complex where this is built this way. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Mickelton. I want to applaud HCD for listening. I really appreciate your action to withdraw this. I was actually going to propose that it be considered for further study. So you beat me to the punch, which is great. And I guess I would just add that I appreciate your statement that this wasn't driven by industry. I completely believe that. You know, as a group in developing the building codes, we are always trying to align codes for simplicity. One of our charges for everybody here is to make the code more usable for people and more enforceable for officials. And so I think that actually is something that as you move forward, we need to keep in mind as well. So I would also say that in terms of doing more research on user preferences, contacting potentially the IDEA Center at the University of Buffalo might be a starting point. They've done a lot of anthropometry research that informed the changes to ANSI A117 3 years ago, which have to do with wheeled mobility devices and reach ranges. And I'm sure that they and other groups like them would have a tremendous amount of research that you could employ to solve the problem that we're looking at. And I would say that a lot of what we're talking about and what I think you're trying to solve is, and that should sort of be taken out to the side. What's the problem that you're trying to solve? And then go from there. The 36 by 36 shower is one device that can solve certain problems, which are when you're in a 30 by 60 shower, which I appreciate Ellie's comment about the 36 being small, but 30 is even smaller. And then you've got this curtain that's coming partly into that 30 inches. So that's a problem as well. And your curtain is here and your shower, handheld shower is over here, spraying into the curtain and all over the floor. This creates a very hazardous condition. And at that interface between the shower and the flooring, you create water damage and rot in a wood floor. This is a really big problem in apartment dwellings that that we've seen over the years and have done remodels to. So I understand, the 36 with the shower handheld in front of you solves that problem. So I would suggest looking also at other states. I was in Oregon recently, and the hotel there had the 36 by 36 ADA FHA shower. And for me, again, speaking personally, it worked much better than other hotel showers. So think about why that works better. And what I've done in my projects, which you could consider, is a very simple fix, which is with the 30 by 60 shower, provide in the control that's to the right of the user, a diverter valve. And on the opposite wall, a regular wall-mounted shower head. What this does is that it allows a standing user who doesn't want to sit and use the handheld or have it spray perpendicular to the shower long direction, to still have a shower from above and the controls easily reached. And then the other problem of reaching in and turning on the water without getting wet, you simply move the diverter to the wall-mounted shower head and you get the temperature right, transfer into the shower, roll your wheelchair in, whatever your means is, and then divert it to the handheld once you have the handheld in your hand. It, I would say, would probably work for 99% of the people. So thinking outside the box of the model code language might yield a very simple and probably $50 solution like that, that not only makes it better for people with disabilities, but for somebody without a disability who just wants to take their normal shower standing up, it's actually working better for them as well. And that's the idea of universal design. So I'll leave it at that. And I trust that you'll go through a good process, and maybe we can have something in California that everybody else will follow. Thank you.
Mr. Krause, can I ask that you clarify that you are only withdrawing item 5 in your package for 11 and not all of item 11?
That's correct. Just this item regarding the 36-inch transfer shower. Yes, item 5.
All right, thank you. Were there any other commissioners that wanted to make a comment before we move on? All right, so now we will take up the rest of tab 11's package. This is item 11, the Department of Housing and Community Development Rulemaking 02/19, proposed adoption of amendments to the 2019 California Building Code, Chapter 11A, Part 2 of Title 24. I'll ask HCD to please introduce themselves and present item 11.